The Cleveland Browns are currently participating in what can only be described as professional negligence, and the latest moves coming out of Berea suggest the organization is in a state of total, unadulterated panic. We aren't just talking about a team that's losing games. We're talking about a franchise that might be actively ruining the most talented quarterback to ever wear their jersey. The moves Andrew Berry is making right now, cutting linemen one day and signing journeymen the next, reveal a level of internal chaos that should have every fan in a state of absolute fury. They are reshuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic, while Shedeur Sanders is being asked to play quarterback in a hurricane. If you want to understand the scale of this disaster, you have to look at the numbers that the mainstream media is trying to gloss over. In a recent game against the Chicago Bears, Shedeur Sanders endured a 48% pressure rate. Let that sink in for a moment. That isn't just a high number. It's the highest single game pressure rate ever recorded since ESPN started tracking the stat in 2009. It's a miracle the kid is even walking, let alone throwing. This isn't football. It's a gauntlet. And while the front office tries to pretend this is just rookie growing pains, the reality is much more shocking. This is a systematic failure of leadership that starts at the very top and trickles down to a coaching staff that seems completely out of its depth. The narrative being pushed in the media right now is perhaps the most infuriating part of this entire saga. After the Chicago disaster, Shedeur walked into the press room, battered and bruised, and was immediately interrogated about his completion percentage. Reporters were aggressively pointing out that his numbers are lower than they were at Colorado, completely ignoring the fact that he has approximately 1.2 seconds to throw before a 300-pound defensive end is in his lap. It's a classic case of gaslighting. They want you to look at the box score, so you don't look at the film. But Shedeur didn't take the bait. He didn't point fingers, and he didn't blame his teammates. He showed more maturity in a 10-minute press conference than the entire Browns coaching staff has shown all season. But the real mask slip happened the very next day when Tommy Rees stepped up to the podium. Instead of taking accountability for an offensive scheme that looks like it was written on a napkin 5 minutes before kickoff, he started making excuses that would be embarrassing for a high school coach. He actually tried to claim that the quarterback's headset malfunctioned because it was cold outside. We are talking about a multi-billion-dollar league that plays in Green Bay and Buffalo in the dead of winter. Yet the Browns want us to believe their technology can't survive a little November chill in Chicago. It's an insult to the intelligence of every fan. And then came the quote that should be etched into the tombstone of this season. It's a collective issue. Nobody is at fault. It's funny how it's a collective issue when the coaches fail, but it's a Shedeur issue when the drive stalls. Behind the scenes, the situation is even more explosive. Jimmy Haslam is reportedly starting to realize that the product he's funding is a total embarrassment. And the result is a front office that is now operating in pure panic mode. Andrew Berry is cutting rookie linemen in moves that have left analysts completely baffled. You don't cut young talent in the middle of a rebuild unless you are desperately trying to cover your own tracks. This isn't a long-term strategy. It's a frantic attempt to stop the bleeding. They know they've put Shedeur in a life-threatening situation, and they are throwing bodies at the problem, hoping something sticks before the franchise quarterback gets permanently broken. To understand why Shedeur is struggling, You have to look at who is actually standing in front of him. On any given Sunday, the Browns are trot out a protection unit that looks like a collection of emergency signings and practice squad leftovers. You've got journeymen like Cam Robinson, who barely knows the snap count, playing alongside guys like Jedrick Wills, whose effort has been questioned by almost every scout in the league. At one point, they were forced to use an emergency backup center who hadn't taken a meaningful snap in months. Fans on social media are calling them gym teachers and part-time plumbers. And while that might be a joke, the reality isn't far off. You are asking a generational talent to trust his life with players who wouldn't start on 30 other NFL teams. And this is where the story takes a truly dark turn. There are persistent whispers coming out of the locker room that suggest the lack of protection might not just be about a lack of talent. Multiple sources have hinted that there is a level of resentment building among some of the veterans toward Shedeur's celebrity, status and the media circus that follows him. When you watch the tape and see linemen missing blocks that they would normally make in their sleep, you have to ask the question, is everyone on that field actually trying to keep him upright? It's a shocking accusation, but in an organization this dysfunctional, nothing is off the table. If there is even a grain of truth to the idea that Shedeur is being sabotaged by his own teammates, this is no longer a football problem. It's a total cultural collapse. Despite all of this, the historic pressure, the coaching excuses, the locker room whispers, and the drops by receivers like Jerry Jeudy, Shedeur Sanders is still making plays. He is delivering balls into tight windows while literally being hit as he releases the football. He is showing the kind of poise that usually takes years to develop. He isn't the problem. He's the only reason anyone is still watching. Mel Kiper has already sounded the alarm, stating emphatically that the Browns must use every single resource in the 2025 draft to build a wall around this kid. No more project players. No more bargain-bin free agents. If they don't get him an elite left tackle and a guard who can actually hold a block, they are essentially throwing his career into a wood chipper. The path forward for Cleveland is narrow, and the stakes couldn't be higher. There is talk of the organization using their first-round picks on yet another quarterback, a move that would be so catastrophically stupid, it might actually cause a riot in the streets of Cleveland. They don't need a new arm. They need a foundation. They need to invest in elite offensive line talent and perhaps make a nuclear trade for a true number one receiver. Imagine this offense with a weapon like Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb, players who actually catch the ball when it hits them in the chest. That is the level of talent required to save this situation. If the Browns don't act now, they won't just lose games. They will lose the trust of a generation of fans who are tired of watching greatness get wasted in a factory of sadness. The clock is ticking, and the world is watching to see if Cleveland will finally do the right thing, or if they'll let another superstar's light be extinguished by their own incompetence.